Hi, I'm Chris Reykdal, Superintendent of Public Instruction for the awesome state of Washington. As part of October's Disability History Month, we are honored to work with our partners to support increased inclusionary practice efforts in schools in districts all across Washington state. Many students with IEPs in Washington are struggling to access grade-level general education learning standards, while also receiving special education services. This struggle is documented in data showing lower rates of graduation with a regular high school diploma, and lower rates of access to further education and employment after leaving the public school system. Parents, families, and educators report, and data shows, that as students with disabilities get older, they are removed from general education classrooms, the general education content, and have fewer interaction opportunities with peers without disabilities, which is contributing to poor outcomes. Research has also shown that inclusive practices and high-quality instruction is good for each and every student in our schools. This includes such evidence-based inclusive practices as Universal Design for Learning, UDL, for academics. Addressing the school climate and culture of the school community to build a space of belonging. Use of social emotional learning and behavior supports. Providing the pre-service and in-service professional learning to ensure all educators are prepared to teach all students in their classroom with implementation of multi-tiered systems of supports, MTSS, of core instruction and additional interventions. OSPI is committed to ensuring that all students are prepared for post-secondary pathways, careers, and civic engagement, and are working to transform pre-K to 12 education to a system that is focused on closing opportunity gaps and is characterized by high expectations for all students and educators. All doesn't mean some, all means all. This is why I'm committed to the Inclusionary Practices Project work and why every school, district, community-based organization, and individual needs to care about this critical work. We can work together in stronger and better ways to meet the needs of each and every learner in Washington schools. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Cassie Martin, who will provide further explanation about components of the IPP.
Thank you, Superintendent Reykdal. Hi, I'm Dr. Cassie Martin, Project Director of the Inclusionary Practices Professional Development IPP Demonstration Sites Project at the University of Washington Haring Center for Inclusive Education. The IPP Demonstration Sites Project is one part of the larger Inclusionary Practices statewide professional development community. Washington State is one of the 10 least inclusive states in our nation. That reality has lifelong implications for students with disabilities, and the barriers to access that exist in our schools adversely impact every learner. In 2019, the state legislature recognized the immediate need to increase inclusionary practices across Washington schools. And they provided OSPI with funds in the biennial budget to implement professional development in support of inclusionary practices with an emphasis on coaching and mentoring. The focus of IPP is to improve outcomes and to engage students with disabilities in general education classrooms, content, and community. When we provide high-quality instruction, relationships, and approach education through an equity lens for students with disabilities, we improve the education outcomes for all of our Washington State students. While Washington has made great strides in the last 2 years, there's a tremendous amount of work ahead of us. To continue the positive momentum, Washington needs to continue to invest in schools where all students belong. This is not simply a special education initiative or an initiative at all. It's a cultural shift that strengthens our education system for all students and educators. The responsibility in this shift lies not on individual persons or on one department. It includes all of us. It includes our beliefs and attitudes, but also the systems, structures, and legislation and policies. They must align. Building inclusive school communities takes a commitment to create spaces that are accessible and available and representative of all people. To reinforce what Superintendent Reykdal said, we are responsible for the learning, growing, and thriving of all of our Washington State students, not just some of them. In our first 2 years of the IPP, organizations from across the state have been collaborating with one another and with OSPI to create more equitable and inclusive schools. We are embarking on years 3 and 4 of the IPP project and want to make sure everyone is taking the opportunity to engage in and learn about how we can work together to improve outcomes for all of our students, and especially students who have been historically or are currently marginalized in public schools. OSPI and IPP professional development priorities for years 3 and 4 include centering racial equity and intersectionality with disability, engaging families as decision makers and co-designers, and including student voice and opportunities for self-advocacy across our general education system. We have some tremendous educators, educational leaders, students, and families that are engaging in some innovative, inspiring work. And by learning from them, taking what we learn and applying it in our own context, we can have a significant impact on Washington State schools. Inclusive education requires deep, ongoing reflection and meaningful, sustaining partnerships with students, families, teachers, and the community. We have so much to learn from one another as we engage in this crucial, challenging, and collaborative work. We are proud of the community that is growing in response to the statewide Inclusionary Practices Project and want you to join us in this work. As we take time to learn and reflect during Disability History Month, we acknowledge that inclusive education is an ongoing journey that requires our attention, our commitment, and our action.